Hello everyone and welcome to the Extreme TIG channel. So for today's video guys, topic is gonna be some advanced TIG welding root technique. So for the example, I got 4-inch standard wall pipe, carbon pipe. I'm gonna do a prep. That's another step, that's most important thing prior to welding. So I put like a 30ish degrees bevel. Make sure your pretty much bevel is consistent. It's not like a wavy too much. The other most important step, clean. Triple C, clean, always in and out, 1.5 inches from the edge, inside and out. Make sure, especially later when you start putting some heat, all that impurities, if you didn't clean, it's gonna pull right into the weld. It's gonna make your weld puddle more difficult, especially depends from the filler rod you're using. So for this one, I'm gonna go with the 70S2 rod filler wire, and it's gonna be like loose 332 gap. So with 70S2, lots of welders who had experienced that rod, they know it's a little bit tricky. It's a little bit difficult to weld. The rod is specially designed for dirty applications. You can use a gap gauge if you got. It's helpful, but the most simple thing is just take that 332 rod and see what gap you like, and set up your gap like that. So it's not gonna be much room. You can wiggle a little bit. 332, it's easier, so you can weld faster. You don't have to deposit too much rod. So I'm gonna put it's gonna be root tacks, 1/2 inch minimum length for the root tack. It's gonna be like 12, 3 and 9 o'clock. Another step is most important as well, the size of your cap. You want an 8. You see the 8, it's a little bit too big for that gap, so I'm gonna go with 6. That's the thing, that's something you gotta determine by yourself. What's gonna help you depends how you gonna wiggle the cap inside the bevel, or you're gonna freehand. It doesn't really matter. It's gonna help you later for your head pass. Okay, I'm just gonna open argon. It's gonna set up around 20, and as I said, cap size 6. And for the tungsten, I'm using 1/8 with a pointy end. It's lanthanated, and usually this is my reference that I'm using for the stick out. Put on the top of the pipe, and then when the pointy end is touching inside the bevel or passing a little bit inside, that's pretty much for my stick out. Okay, this is 110. I got that little DC TIG welding machine, and for the root pass. Okay, now we're just gonna connect all those tacks. They're gonna be from pretty much on the top or in a flat position. So I'm gonna put all 3 tacks, as I said, 12, 9 and 3 o'clock, 1/2 inch long. So you're wondering what's so advanced about this? Well, the thing, we're not going to use any grinder, so there's not going to be feathering out any tacks. So we just got to do tie-ins on each tack, blend it in, and continue on welding. This side a little bit pulled. It's not even all the way and round, and it doesn't have to be perfect. I don't like perfect stuff. That's very rare you're gonna see something's perfect, especially in a field. Shop fabrication, that's something else. It's controlled environment, yeah. Okay, so you can see this one tack is a little bit heavy. Sag down when I was doing it in a flat. But as I said, no grinder allowed in this video, no any power tools, just a hand brush. And then we're gonna do root all the way to the cap. Okay, so the pipe is set up in a 5G. Going to start with on the bottom, open end on the bottom, back feed technique. As you can see, the pipe shrink a little bit on the bottom. That's not a big deal, as I got room from on the top. I'm just gonna back feed. So the technique I'm gonna use here is gonna be a freehand. Probably start on a 6 o'clock all the way up to 3 o'clock, and then you go from the inside and then you pull it out. I'm gonna show you later in more details in the video. I'm gonna have some arc shots. Pretty much you keep it inside, a little bit above. That's how you create all that to be nice and uniform. And you're gonna have enough deposit. You're not gonna have too much of a suck back. Before you reach the tack, you pull it out and then you continue on, do the proper tie-in, and then you go over that tack. Before we continue, I noticed in my statistic, guys, 81% of you are not subscribed, watching my content. This content is free, always will be, but the least thing you can do, guys, subscribe, hit that subscribe button and bell icon, so to give me more motivation so I can continue on creating more content, more educational content. As I said, fitting back feed from the top. You can wiggle, you can walk the cup in the root, or you can freehand, doesn't matter, just the position of that rod. So the way I position is just keep it inside, feed enough. You gotta, so there's the two important things, especially the 70S2, it's a little bit tricky. Keep it on the top of the puddle, have a nice amperage that you can actually follow. Try to coordinate both your feeding hand and your travel speed. Keep it inside, try to be consistent. I can't tell you how much you feed, that's something that you gotta figure out on your own. But as I said, I keep it on the top of the puddle. Don't try to not lose any connections. Try to keep it keep it consistent inside. It's pretty much melting always, and you just keep adding. You see you lost connection, you just put it back in. So I stop here, as I'm gonna show you a little bit more in detail how to do the tie-in without feathering out or using a grinder. Start here once on the start. As soon as the puddle starts melting, keep adding. Before you reach that tack, you pull it out, and then you kind of close it here with the pausing on the sides. Okay, now we start, and now before you reach that tack, I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to show you on a split screen. Now I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to add from the outside. A little pause here on before you do tie-in. Make sure both sides are melted. You can always come back with your cup, couple steps back, and then redo it again. I was a little bit pausing too much. There's a little bit, it's a little bit heavier, but it's usually the 3 and 9 o'clock is usually a little bit tricky, especially if you're not using any grinders. And I'm just going to continue on top. Top is the easiest part, as the gravity will do their own thing. You just got to have that feeling, have sense how much rod you have to push, you know, how much you have to add to have that. As you can see, I step back and then I go back over it. Overall, that's pretty good. As I said, there's just a little bit that you can see that little heavy, a little bit on that 3 o'clock. Now for the other side, pretty much the same thing. Before I reach the tack, pull it out the rod and do it from the outside. Finish it, close it, go over it. The thing with this one, that was the one that was on the top on the flat. It's a little bit heavy, so I'm gonna try to pause, slow down when I'm going over that tack. I'm trying to create a little bit suck back to kind of smooth it out, so it doesn't look like a little bit too grapey. As you can see, I'm shaking here a little bit, so that means I'm doing freehanding. Keeping rod consistent. Now I pull it out, pause before you do tie in here on the edges, one side, add the rod other side, close that middle. Now the shot is a little bit blurry. and then I'm gonna come back a couple steps and I'm gonna repeat for that tie-in section. And here on the root itself I slow down. As you can see, I put some heat to try to create some suck back, which turns out pretty good. The most important thing is the tie-ins are actually with tacks are good. There's no any issues. The edges are burned, and that should be X-ray proofed 100%. So here shrink a little bit. I'm just gonna pull it from the outside. As you notice, pretty much I was doing lay wire technique all the time, but you gotta change, you know, you gotta change. Depends the pipe, you know, pipe shrinks, one side pull, the other one a little bit open, then you gotta apply. That's why it's good to have an arsenal of skills that you can use when you're welding. You want to do lay wire, you want to do dipping technique, you want to keyhole it, or there's a different technique always. You can apply, you can adjust when you're welding. And now pretty much, as I said, on the top is the easiest part, but the procedure is pretty much the same. Slow down, burn the edges both sides, add wire as needed, and then you just go over it ½ inch, and that's it. See how I'm adding wire? It's just the feeling. You have to have that sense of how much you think that rod is already in, how much rod is it inside. So the hot pass, so the root pass is done. I'm just gonna use a hand brush. As I said, no any power tools allowed on this one, and we're gonna stick with that. That's it. Pretty much. That's a good root. Nothing's wrong with that. I mean, you always gonna have visible spots where your tacks were. The only thing, we can do some adjustments with a hot pass on those spots, 3, 9 o'clock. You can always, when you're doing hot pass, you can always kind of slow down, put more heat, and try to, you know, try to suck it back even more. And more you're welding, the root will change. But usually I always go with 1/8, and I like to do heavy roots. But this one is 332, and it's 70S2 rod. As I said, that rod is specifically designed for dirty applications. Not many people like that rod. The other tip for that rod, you gotta crank it up on an amperage. If you go slow, that rod can give you lots of TIG slag, as you can see here. There's lots of TIG slag. Sometimes even, especially when I'm doing a hand brush, so I'm not using any buffing wheel. But you gotta like chip and hammer and knock it out, the TIG slag. So I'm gonna do a filter flash, one more pass. Okay, that's it. Filter flash is done. I'm gonna wait a little bit, maybe 10-15 minutes to cool it down a little bit. It's gonna be easier to put a final pass or a cap. For the cap, I'm gonna switch back to cap 8. And I'm just gonna cap it out. And as I said, as I pause on those 2 spots, 3 and 9 o'clock, to do the suck back even more on those a little bit heavier spots that I had on, that's gonna help. And then another pass, scalp even more. It's kind of more passes, it's gonna reshape your root a little bit. And for the cap, it's as you can see here, like on the top of the puddle, you can see that impurity, and that's because that 70S2 rod, it's kind of hard to manipulate, you know. So it so the more amperage you got, actually it's easy. It's going to be a little bit more liquid, so you can get rid of all that impurities from top. And that's it. That's the final. That's the final, and looks actually pretty good. It's even better now. Well, I like it. I hope you guys like it. I hope you guys learned. I know there's a couple weld tests that actually guys are not allowed to use any grinders, maybe just a file and a hand brush. but in this case this is a pipe. So it might help this video if you got any tests like that. And it's good to know, you know, stuff like that always, especially in the field. Nothing's perfect. This pipe is not perfect, this root is not perfect, but it's good, it's solid, and it's gonna pass X-ray. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Please like, subscribe, share, and see you in the next one, guys. Take care.